Hello, Rob Veach from Vparanormal. I recently uploaded a video about the REM-Pod with shadow detection function, and I was wondering if there's a way to use this device with a remote connection to get the ability to have trigger objects and have this thing fire from entities going near objects of interest, like pictures, photo frames, or plaques and things like that. So there are units out there that are meant for doing this. Like I have one right here, which is the E-probe from Vparanormal or calparatech.com. And this device works great. You put a wire on it and you put it to an object, a metal object, or something in a frame that's metallic. This device is not that sensitive on its own for detecting just weak E fields. You have to get pretty close to the antenna to have it work. But it's great for connecting it to metallic objects. So I did some experimentation and I came up with a simple design of something that works really well. This is let me get my list here. This is a 8.5-inch speaker grill that you can pick up on eBay, and I sanded the inside surface to get the flat black paint off it, and I put rubber legs on the bottom of it, and I riveted on a connection after I removed the paint, of course, to a wire, actually 2 wires, and it terminates in clips. And the dimensions of this: 8.5-inch diameter for the speaker grill. This portion of the wire is 18 inches long, and you can see it's twisted, and that's important. I'll tell you a little later why. And then the section goes off to 2 separate sections of 1 foot to the jumper cable. The type this is a 2-inch alligator clip that's on the ends here. And the wire that I used is a 16 gauge wire that will be on an extension cord. I just cut an extension cord, used the actual wire, and this ended up being a pretty good choice, a compromise of being rigid and having insulation on there. And the reason why I rotated the wires like I did is so that the E field would not be sensitive on the wire. It would be directed to this plate. And interesting, what happens is this plate ends up having almost a very circular pattern, even on the bottom of it, of about a foot all the way around. And the reason I have 2 connections on here is so that I could put it on the REM-Pod alone, putting the 2 connections on the REM-Pod itself, or I could put one on the REM-Pod and one on the E-probe. And I found that by doing that, I increased the sensitivity. The E-probe is an analog device using complementary metal oxide technology, CMOS integrated circuits inside, and the REM-Pod, of course, as we discussed, is more of a digital approach with some software and a microprocessor inside. So the 2 are combined together, it enhances and allows me to get even a greater field of detection. And I'll show that in a demonstration. One thing to note is that when I connect this up to the REM-Pod, I fully collapse the REM-Pod antenna and I put the jumper leads on the top portion, the 2 of them or the 1 of them. And you want them to exit 90 degrees down this way. And when I use the E-probe, I have it collapsed also, and I have it coming out flat like that. And I put the connection on the end right here. When you do that, it's very effective, and I'll give a demonstration of it on the table next to me, showing the operation of and how to use this. So here I have the REM-Pod connected with the 2 wires, the antenna collapsed, connected to the 8.5-inch speaker grill, and I have a trigger device in there, a wooden plaque. Always put your trigger device in first in this case, and then turn on the REM pod so that it can self-calibrate. So I'm going to show you here as I approach this. I'm going to go on the other side here. As you can see, it's now detecting the change in the E field as I approach it. And if I go under the table, it's also effective because it's actually a circular pattern. The E field detection becomes a circular pattern around this plate. Now I'm going to show you I'm connected up to the E-probe as well as the REM pod. So here I have the E-probe connected electrically as well as the REM pod to the 8.5 inch diameter speaker grill. And the sensitivity gets enhanced. I'm not sure why that is. The E-probe is analog and the REM pod is digital. But the REM pod still functions. You could go near it. And the E-probe also functions independently. But the sensitivity is really great on where you put your trigger device. As you can see, it's become very sensitive. I'll walk over here. You see both of them are being triggered at about the same time. So this is a great way during an investigation to put trigger objects on this tray and utilize the REM pod or the E-probe, either one of them independently, during your investigation so that you can hopefully get an entity to go near these devices and get a response, hopefully on cue, to a question that you ask. Thanks for watching.